Hi, everyone. I'm Karith Foster, CEO of Inversity Solutions. And I wanted to have a conversation with a dear friend who I can talk anything with, especially politics. And the topic of today's conversation is political politeness, not correctness, politeness. Is that even a possibility? Because right now we are in a day and an age where just about any topic is ripe for an argument, controversy. Politics definitely tops that list, right? I mean, since 2016, and probably before, but I think we noticed it most in 2016. The divisive nature of pundits, of the political ads, of the rhetoric has sent what used to be safe environments for discussing things in a civil manner just spiraling. So the question is, can we get back to a place where we can talk about what's going on in the political arena without it costing our relationships? What about our sanity? And maybe even like an opportunity to have Thanksgiving together. So joining me today is my friend and special guest, Cathy Cranberg. She is the CEO of Authentic Agility, creator of the Authentic Agility Games. We met many years ago in the nonprofit space and truly one of my favorite people on the planet. So thank you for joining me, Cathy.
Thank you for having me, Karith. I'm so grateful to be here with you.
And part of why I did want to have this conversation with you is because we do talk politics on a regular basis and it never gets heated, never like nobody raises their voice. Nobody's like, well, you're not my friend anymore. And I think that yes, it does help that not necessarily that we see or agree on everything, but our attitude toward the conversation is very similar.
And I think that's where it starts, right? It's what you're coming in with. It's, there's a saying, be curious, not furious. And I think you and I come in with a curiosity about what is your perspective and how can I learn from that? And I think that's where people, it's where they need to begin if they truly are interested in hearing the other side.
I've never heard that. And as a speaker, I'm surprised I haven't heard that before. Curious, not furious. That needs to be on the back of bumpers.
It really does.
Everywhere.
And I stole that from the policy circle.
Well,
That was one of their taglines.
I was gonna bring them up, and because my plan was not to make this a policy circle infomercial, but I can't talk about conversations around politics and policy without just giving them this two thumbs up endorsement for the work that they do. And that is another circle that you and I run in. And would you like to share a little bit about what, because you're definitely way more involved than I am, and you're more of an insider. So if you would share like what the policy circle is and what they do.
Yes. So I serve on their board of directors. And the Policy Circle is a 501c3. It's a nonpartisan, not-for-profit organization that empowers, engages, and educates women. It specifically focuses on policy, not politics. And I think that's where you can really look at the issue. You look at the issues by issue versus the headlines and the personalities. You have to go beyond the sound bites and really look at the policies, because even last night, and the Policy Circle has amazing tools out there for people to reference.
Yeah.
They had the whole Republican Party kind of platform, the whole Democrat Party platform. They're giving it from a nonpartisan view. They want us to be informed so that we're actually voting on what's important to us, not just on the personalities and the pundits.
I was going to say, I think that really helps people focus on the meat of what is happening, because it is so easy to get caught up on the emotional side of things. And look, the marketers behind all of this know that that's how you get people either riled up, you win their hearts, you upset them, you put them in distress, you make them fearful, right? If you don't vote for this person, then that person's going to do this to you and your rights and your freedom, and they're going to take this away. And what the Policy Circle does, and I'm sure there are other organizations out there that try, but I am just most familiar with the Policy Circle. But they set up environments for people to have these conversations in a very neutral space. And it's like a conversation. It's not a debate. It's not, you're not being lectured at. You're invited to, read information, take it in, formulate your opinions and your thoughts on it and share in what I call a brave space, right? Because I think the term safe space has been hijacked a little bit, especially in collegiate formats, to where it's, well, if you don't agree with me, or if you're going to ask me questions that are uncomfortable, if you're going to put me in a place that I'm not okay with, then that's no longer safe. And unfortunately, if you do that, you're setting up precedents to avoid the real world. Because the real world isn't fair. You're going to meet people who don't agree with you, who don't see things your way exactly, who don't side with you. You can't avoid that forever. But if you can create a brave space where you have the opportunity to share and express your authentic self and ideas and not be on the offense or the defense when you're hearing other people share that just sets it up for a real conversation. So what is it? Let me ask you, Cathy, why do you think it is so hard for people to talk politics without getting so emotional about it?
Yeah, I think it's deep seated. We're in a tribal situation now. So our old brains are tribal, and politics has become our new tribe. And so the emotions that are created from social media, from the media, there's so much noise. And the goal is to create fear and anxiety. I mean, I believe that. I don't believe it's to inform necessarily, because if it was, you could look at both platforms and see how similar they are. The 10 points on each platform are basically the same things, and they're going about it just slightly differently. So, what I like to talk about is the tools, is how we inform ourselves, and focusing on the issues and the policies and not the personalities or the politics. So, I think the way we can do this better is with structure. And I'll give you an example. You and I both have young children. My children go to a school where they use, it's called the Harkness method. The Harkness method is where everyone sits in a circle. Everyone has 2 minutes to answer an open-ended question. Maybe the question is, who do you think will win the presidency? And they get to say who they feel like and why. And they take that from, soup to nuts, but it's a way that kids can train their brains to think for themselves and then also to hear and respect one another. So my perspective is that the best way to talk about politics is with structure, with structure that's respectful and that's guided. Authentic agility creates games, and that's exactly what we provide, is open-ended questions where everyone at the table gets 1 or 2 minutes to answer those questions. And you can completely disagree, but the goal is to listen, to respect, and to learn.
And I use those games with the work that I do within Inversity when I do certain workshops, and people love them. I mean, I've had companies like order them. They're like, "Where did you get this?" I'm like, "Oh, let me tell you." Because it's such a hit. Because in most arenas, when people are at the office, right, they'll go to the water cooler, they'll, or whatever, if they have that anymore. Still, most people bring their own water, but
Yeah.
there'll be a break room or a social space, and people are terrified to talk politics now. And that's a shame because it actually is a very important topic. Like, we should be informed and know what's going on. But I think we are so afraid of offending someone else, of an argument ensuing. I watch the Daily Show every now and then. I don't watch a lot of TV, and I know you and I both stay away from media as much as we can. We're more podcast consumers. But they were having a bit about like the actual emotionally challenging aspects of what this election this year is doing to people. And they were, showing clips from CNN, from Fox News of like how stressed out people are. And, there was one where hold on, I gotta put my glasses on and put it in front of me. It says 61% of people say that this whole election cycle is affecting their health.
Wow.
Right. And it's having an even bigger effect on young voters. And 31% of the people polled feel fear. They feel outright fear. 73% of people, for this is from a Pew research, they said that 73% of people said the election is causing them anxiety. There have even been reports of, this is not funny, but it is, um, irritable bowel syndrome. Like people are literally getting so upset. Their insides are messed up. I mean, that's out of control. Like, how do we
Yeah.
rein that back in?
There has to be a personal boundary set. I believe we have to cut off social media. We have to cut off media. Maybe you give yourself 5 minutes a day and say, I'm going to study the issues. I'm going to find my resources. Maybe it's 20 minutes, whatever the time frame, but then cut it off and don't watch it over and over and over, because I do think it's unhealthy and it's unproductive.
True.
Very unproductive, so I think people just need to refresh their browser in a way. And I am setting boundaries. If I'm, please, let's not have IBS from the election. And I mean, it sounds so simple, but we just all have to take personal responsibility for what's healthy for
That's
us.
so huge. That is so huge, the personal responsibility. And I love the idea of setting boundaries. I talk about that and so much of the work that I do. And not just setting boundaries, but actually sticking to them, right? Like actually saying, you know what, gave myself that 5 minutes. I'm setting a timer. I'm honoring that. I'm honoring myself, my health, my mental health, my physical health.
Yes.
And, I think that, a lot of us, probably not you, but we'll get online and we'll do the doom scrolling, right? Like, "Ugh, what else is going on in the world?" I mean, and look, it's real. Like things are energetic. The exhaustion is real. What's happening in the Middle East is real. What's happening within our own country is real. What's happening with aging parents is real. We're not going to escape life, real life. And I'm not saying to do that, but you also have to take care of yourself. And I think that a lot of people think, well, self-care is kind of flippant now because it's been, I mean, since the days of Oprah, take care of yourself, go to the spa, drink your water. But it genuinely, if you are going to be an active participant and a healthy person for yourself, for your children, for your family, for the people you lead, your coworkers, you've got to be in top form as best you can. And that does include mental health and wellness. And if politics and just the anxiety around thinking about having a conversation is going to take you out of that place, then you have to figure out how you are going to come to some peace.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, and you touched on this, and I love Chris Williams and Andrew Huberman. They were on Modern Wisdom, Chris's podcast together, and they brought up Paul Ponte. And I'll send you a link to that podcast because it was chef's kiss. And they mentioned Paul Conte, and Paul Conte coined the term League of Reasonable Voters. And that is where most people probably are, right? That 70 to 80% that are in the middle and wish that we didn't have to ascribe solely to one party versus the other because of the one bit of politics that we don't agree with. Well, you have to be in this category now. Well, you're definitely conservative. You're a Republican. Well, you're definitely a liberal. You're a Democrat. And then there's the poor independents who just kind of
Right.
just get lost in the fray. And the Green Party, like nobody ever talks about them. Did they even get a debate this year? Like, you know? But we've been, the League of Reasonable Voters that I think is most people, we I feel like we don't get a say anymore. And I guess I know how the media works. I was in it for a while, enough to see what happens behind the scenes, enough to know that it didn't sit right with my soul. So what's your advice to the League of Reasonable Voters out there?
Well, they're out there. I mean, and I do think it's the majority. And, we do have good role models. I mean, the vice presidential debate was pretty reasonable. I mean, that was a pretty politically polite debate. So I think, finding role models in your community who come to the table with a reasonable, logical mindset and who you can have great discussions with. I mean, we're all humans. We all, we all will live and die in the same general way. This is not life or death. This is not our tribal, mastery. I don't know what to call it, but I just feel like you have to surround yourself with people who are curious and not furious. Again, I go back to that mantra. And then because they're out there, political politeness is possible. And I find, we've talked about this in my community. I have a lot of friends who are Democrats. I have a lot of friends who are Republicans. I really do. And we eat dinner together. We don't talk politics every time, but we do have really rich discussions about it. And on either side, we, sometimes we'll leave the table and just say, yeah, I can't vote for that person. I can't vote for that person. And we respect that, but it's surrounding yourself with people who you can learn from and know the nuances. It's so nuanced, it's not clear. And because the presidential race is so fear driven now, on both sides, it's not healthy. And it doesn't feel like it's good role modeling on either side.
No, it absolutely
doesn't feel stately. If you look back at our history with Kennedy and Reagan, and, these were more statesmen, and Obama, he was more statesmanlike, very sophisticated and intellectual.
Right.
I don't know that we're in that same place. And I know we're evolving as a culture. I don't know if that's in a positive or negative direction, but
evolving. Let's just say we're evolving.
But you also have to have humor, Karith, what you bring to the table.
100%. 100%.
We have to be able to look at each other and laugh and go, this is ridiculous.
Without question. And I think, one of the aspects of how do we just deal, right? How do we deal with this? It's something that one of the things Andrew had said on the Modern Wisdom podcast was that we have to pay careful attention to what draws our attention, right? So we have to be discerning. One of the things that I have been asking for over time, over the past year, with just different things happening in the world and in my life personally, was I've been praying for the gift of discernment, right? To see people for who they are, to see situations for what they are, to have any clouds removed, any veils lifted. And I think that is one great way to do that, is to listen for what draws our attention. Like, why did we tune into that? Like, what made our ears perk up like a dog? Was it because it sounded interesting, or was it because it was fear-based? And we were able to recognize it as that versus, information that we really needed to know.
There's a saying, what you focus on grows. And so, if you're hooked on to some specific issue or some specific personality, you're going to just reinforce that bias. That's another thing, is the confirmation bias that we're all getting through social media. So it's really hard to have a logical conversation when you're sitting by yourself on social media or media, because it's all confirmation bias. You're just getting what you already believe, and you're getting fed.
The little gremlins behind my algorithm must be like, this girl is schizophrenic.
Same here, because I'm watching everybody because I think it's so important. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it is important. It is like, what are they saying over there? Well, why are they saying this? Like, and you get these sound bites and these clips. And if you just take it as, the truth, without doing any investigation, without saying, well, what was said before that? Right. And again, that's kind of how the media works, right? Like, we are in a day and age of headlines and sound bites. And if you do not take the initiative to further investigate what is going on behind the scenes, in the newspaper, if people still read physical papers, the real stuff is buried on page 8 and 9.
Exactly.
You gotta dig deeper.
And I think we need to think about perspective. This is, we're a planet of 8 billion people. In the U.S., the fact that you and I can have this conversation and we are a democracy is such a gift. It's the perspective that not everyone remembers, that there are not democracies everywhere in the world, that people cannot debate, that they will go to jail or get their head cut off. And that is that's not a joke. So we have to take a step back and go, how lucky are we that you and I can totally disagree, and walk away and still respect each other and have that freedom in this country. And that's what, ultimately is at stake for all of us, is protecting our freedoms overall,
That's it.
to have
That's
the
it.
debate and to have our voices heard. And it is a democracy of the people. That's how America was founded. So I think there's just so much to it. We're such a young country when you look at all the other
Yeah.
countries in the world.
In the
We're
scheme of
just,
things, we're toddlers.
and we're acting like toddlers. We're very immature. I don't know if we're the Romans in the first 100 years or whatever, but it's really interesting to just take a step back and have perspective on it. And I think it's hard for young people to do that because,
Very.
now that we're in this phase of life, we have the perspective because we've had so many experiences and we've visited so many other countries that don't have democracies. So I just always want to keep that in mind too, how grateful we are to have the ability to
I
debate.
made a video after I did early voting, and this is going to air on the 4th. And so there are many people who will probably see it afterwards. But I did a video that I'm going to post. And I said, regardless of who you voted for, of what side you're on, if you are on a side, just remember that to have the right to do this, like that is something not everybody in the world has. And it was something that people in America fought for, died for. So regardless of your politics, like just honoring the people that came before you and feeling it as your, if not your duty, but something that allows you to express yourself and have a voice, whether you think that that voice really counts or matters, at least in your heart of hearts that you did something.
Exactly. And it's an honor to be able to do it. How many years ago did women get the right to vote? I mean, no matter your gender, no matter your color, we all in America can vote if we're a U.S. citizen. And it's an honor to do that. And I think people are they're just letting the media take them over and the social media. And that's on us. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to look at yourself and you have to go, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to be fed this information that's not helpful.
Agreed. I wish there was a version of the Nielsen ratings for like social media, but I guess there is. Like if people stop going to certain channels, unsubscribe, right? That's you using your voice. So I want this to be a palatable conversation. I don't want it to go on too long. So I do have a final question. And I have my thoughts and I'm sure you're going to have yours, but this has obviously been like a wild, wild ride with Kamala Harris, Donald Trump being pitted against one another, and the country really feeling so split. We don't know what's going to happen at the time of this recording. So, how do we detach from the outcome, whatever it is? How do we do that?
It's a great question to contemplate for all of us. For me, acceptance is the first step. It's like the people have voted and the people have been heard, and there's a majority of people that won the vote. And so, but I'm the kind of person, it's going to be fine no matter which way it goes. It will be okay, and life will go on. What I do worry about is whoever wins. I worry about the safety of our country and the safety of other, we're at war in so many ways. And so I fear that there's just, it doesn't matter necessarily who's going to win. I worry about the world as a whole. But what do we do afterwards? I think if you're upset or you're fearful or have anxiety, the best thing to do is to find a close group of people, your community, to talk about it with, to express your feelings, express your sadness or your happiness, and get that out and then move on.
Yeah.
Because, we can't sit and think about it. It's over. It needs to move on. We need to move on as a country, and we need to move forward. What do you think?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of grief for people who are so emotionally attached. Whatever happens, there are going to be people that are going to be really upset. And there is a grieving process to that, right? Because there's going to be the anger, the denial, the bargaining, right? All of those steps. And then eventually comes acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean you're okay with it, but acceptance of like, this is what happened. This is what it is. How am I going to live my life in the best way so that I'm not affected emotionally or physically, that I am contributing to society in the best way, And I think that was one thing I really want to encourage people to do. And this is what, going back to the policy circle, what the policy circle allows people to do is, if you are fed up, if you are upset about what you see happening in the world, there is an opportunity, no matter who you are, to do something about it. And it does start at local levels. And there are organizations like the Policy Circle that support women to help them get into arenas where they can express that opinion and use that voice and be that person to help make a change and make a difference. I think we've kind of gone into this default mode of, well, it's above me, right? The people that are up there, they're the lawyers, they're the connected people, because I mean, at this point, let's face it, like, politics is a career. It wasn't back when they founded the country. The idea for presidents was you were supposed to come from, whether it was banking or farming, or you were a teacher or you were a lawyer, like, and then you served your country for a certain amount of time. Then you went back to that.
Right.
Now we have, I mean, career politicians, but I think we need more real people to be politicians, more real people who were teachers, who were, healthcare workers, who are people who see what is happening because of systems that other people are so far removed from.
And you're spot on. Taking action and personal engagement is the only way to feel agency about the process. If you're upset, okay, what can I go do to make change? And it does start locally. And I think the Policy Circle has a fabulous structure and process and a full education on all of that, how to engage locally, how to engage statewide or even nationally. But when you take control, so say I lose and you win, or what, however the outcome is, what I can do is I can sign up for my local government. I can see if I can sit on a city council. I can say, can I learn? Can I help make change that I believe in, since I am against what just happened? That's the best way to just creating our own agency and making a difference in your own world first. Let's not take out the anger. And then the other piece is, don't take the anger out on social media.
Yeah.
Let's look at each other and talk. Let's not be furious to no one.
Right. And one step further, don't take it out on your family, like on your blood, on your friends, on the people that, you genuinely would like, even if if you didn't know who they voted for. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's one aspect. And I understand people think, well, that's an indicator of who they are and their beliefs but if you didn't know that, would you feel differently? You know what I mean? Would you feel still the same way, rather? Is it that they're voting for someone that you oppose, that it's taking you out of the realm of the relationship? Like, that's what we need to, like, really rein in and come back to. And I know that some people think, oh, it's kind of cheesy or whatever. I don't care at this point. Love, love. We have to love one another. We have to look out for one another. We have to take care of one another. We have seen so many horrific things happening in the world, natural disasters, and we see people taking care of each other. And we have to continue in that.
Well, you do this best, Karith. I mean, you're all about inclusion and division. And I think inclusion is the way to go forward. It's inclusion. I was at a dinner last night from our friend Donna Orander, and we had, 25 women from all walks of life, from social workers to CEOs to policemen to hairdressers and it was such a beautiful night because we're all included. We're in this community. We're living together. We're trying to engage. We're trying to love each other and our families and do the best. And when you see just times like that, we're all in it together. And I think more connection, person to person, is absolutely necessary. I want to get offline every time I can. I wish I was with you in person. And hopefully I will be soon.
We will.
But I do think more of that is better and less of this faceless communication.
100%. 100%. Well, I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your day. I know you're a busy woman, businesswoman, family woman. Thank you for this great conversation. And I hope that, through what we both were able to share, that we spark some ideas for people on how to navigate this really strenuous time and how not to let the anxiety and the fear and the chaos override their own nervous system, but also their relationships. So, with that, I am going to bid everyone a wonderful day, a wonderful night, wherever you are. And thank you for tuning in.